some noise for
Orange Juice in a Blunt.
Whoreson, the story of a ghetto pimp. Five. When my 14th year on this bittersweet earth came, I felt as if I were a man. Jessie and I stood at just about the same height now. My hair was black, with thick curls that hung down upon my brow. Whenever I went up on the corner with Jessie, I could feel the admiring glances the whores would throw my way. A few would even joke with Jessie about when would be my coming-out date. On these occasions, I would remark to Jessie that I was ready to pimp, but she would only laugh and cap, "You think you know how to talk, slick boy, but that ain't the key. Anybody can talk out the side of his neck. What you got to do is find the key, honey. I can't give it to you. I can only tell you where to look for it. You got to learn how to sell conversation, baby." At this time, I didn't know what she meant by finding the key. I knew I could think and talk fast. Plus I knew all the latest slang. "You just ain't hip, Ma," I'd cap. "I got some beef that sells better than a hamburger." The first time I screamed this on Jessie, I don't know if she wanted to slap me or not. She had raised her hand, but I'd stepped back out of reach. She looked at me sadly. Had I been older, I might have been able to read doubt in her eyes. "Pimpin' is an art, Whoreson," she told me seriously. "There are very few pimps in this world who can really take the title of being a pimp. Just because a man gets his money from a whore, that don't make him no true pimp. Real pimps are really rare." To prove her point, she reached down in her sweater and fumbled around. When she removed her hand, she held a small roll of money. She put this into the palm of my hand, then closed my fingers over the bills. "Count it," she said. "I'm going to continue working. When you think I've made enough money, tell me, and we'll go home." I counted the $18 on my way to the Pigfoot joint on the corner. Tony and Milton were lording around the jukebox. There was a booth full of young girls next to the jukebox, and they yelled at me playfully. I was in the process of convincing the girls to go up to my house so that we could use the bedroom when Jessie entered the restaurant. My back was turned to the door, so I didn't notice her. The kids in the booth got quiet. I turned around to see what the matter was, only to find my mother bearing down on me. She stopped in front of me and held out a $5 bill. I didn't know what to do, so I took the money. Her eyes didn't hold a hint of a smile. Just as suddenly as she entered, she turned and retraced her steps without speaking. I felt a little self-conscious, so I stuffed the $5 bill down into my pocket without flashing my roll. The last thing I wanted was for the kids to think I got my money from my mother. Tony would know where I got my bankroll at, but they wouldn't, and I had no desire for them to start getting wrong impressions. Had I really understood Jessie's intention, I could have avoided the next incident just by going outside. But I was unprepared when she popped back in the door. She hadn't been gone 10 minutes. I stared at her, coming across the floor. Bewilderedly, I held out my hand for the $10 bill she carried loosely. In a voice that sounded shriller than the one I normally used, I heard myself asking, "You ready to go in, Jessie?" Jessie had never been ashamed of anything she did, to my knowledge. She knew that she was embarrassing me. This only aroused her sense of humor. "It's up to you, sweet meat," she said, referring to the statement I'd made earlier. She ran her hand through my hair. I'm ready whenever you're ready. I really wanted to stay and shoot the bull with my school friends, but I was embarrassed by the way Jessie was acting. Given the choice of staying or leaving, I quickly accepted the latter. Had I been as old and wise as I thought I was, I would have realized that many people would get the wrong impression of our relationship. Being as naive as I was, the only thing that disturbed me was that people would think all the money I handled came from Jessie. Many sly looks were cast our way as we walked out of the restaurant, from the older people as well as from the young crowd. Jessie had a way of walking that made people think a queen was going past. To carry myself with such pride was my desire. On our way home, Jessie started to cough. I held her arm, and she bent over and spit up a mouthful of blood. You all right, Jessie? I'm as well as any nigger woman can hope to be, she answered lightly. For the first time that night, I was glad we were going home early. When we got home, Jessie slipped into a housecoat while I fixed some coffee. She came into the kitchen and sat down across from me. She'd removed her makeup, and with it the professional air she carried when she worked. I smiled with happiness. I realized that I loved this tall, strange, beautiful woman. She gave me one of her rare smiles. There was an understanding between us that was wonderful. Apparently, Jessie understood better than I that we were all each other had. I went to the cupboard, removed 2 cups from the shelf, and rinsed them out in the sink. We always took this precaution so we wouldn't have to worry about drinking a roach. I poured us both some coffee before sitting back down. Without taking her eyes from mine, Jessie placed a small bundle of reefer down beside my coffee cup. It wasn't difficult for me to recognize the 10 joints I had rolled that morning. They still had my blue rubber band around them. Leaving them under my pillow had been a mistake. I had meant to retrieve them earlier, but had forgotten. To try and lie out of it would bring down instant punishment by whatever means lay near at hand. From past experience, I knew she wouldn't hesitate to throw the coffee cup at me if I lied. Jessie hated lies with a passion. I stared at the reefer. Hoping that my hand wouldn't shake too bad, I reached boldly for the reefer. After removing one from the group, I tossed the rest onto the table in front of her. Removing a book of matches from my pocket, I lit the joint and took a deep drag. Jessie silently stared across the table at me. Neither of us had spoken yet, nor was I going to be the one to break the silence. She got up from the table and walked into the other room. Soon the sound of Billie Holiday, singing her troubled blues, came drifting from the record player in the front room. Jessie returned and picked up a joint and lit it. We sat at the table smoking reefer and talking till the sky began to get light outside. Of the many things she warned me about that night, one was never to use any other drug but reefer. She made me promise that for no reason would I allow someone else or myself to shoot some heroin in my veins or snort it up my nose. I wasn't worried about using horse. I had seen what shooting stuff did to Tony's mother, so I had no desire for that form of drug. We were both lit up pretty well when we staggered up from the table that morning. Jessie had made a short trip down the street and got a bottle of wine to go with the weed, so we had become quite high. Her laughter rang out to welcome the sunrise as I helped her to stand. The flickering rays of the new day played tag across the wall as we staggered towards her bedroom with me holding her up. After I had put her into her bed, I leaned down to kiss her on her lips, but she turned her head quickly to avoid it. I drew back and